In this video, we're going to look into how the internet will help us in determining our sample size. If you would recall that one of the, or two rather, of the general tips that we have for determining sample size are as follows. The third general tip is that we look for sample size tables. And the fourth general tip is to use sample size calculators. So we're going to look at these two and how it will make our lives even easier to look for our sample sizes. So let's look first at our sample size tables. So now that we cleared that up, we can just simply search for Google sample size tables. And as you can see, we actually have a lot. We have a lot of images here. And we can click the first one that comes out. And we have already a sample size table. So here, as you can see, if you're following what's on my cursor, if we have here a confidence interval of 95%, it means we are 95% sure that our survey would give the same result over and over again, and we have 99% confidence. This means that we are 99% sure that our survey will give the same result over and over again. Here below would be our margin of error. Now, what is margin of error? When we talk about the margin of error, this is actually the amount of error that we can tolerate, or amount of error tolerable. Meaning, if we are 99% confident, this one here, if we are 99% confident that our survey would always turn out the result every time we give it, this is now the amount of error that we allow ourselves to commit in our survey results. So we can, even though our survey would be 99% consistent, of course, since it's a sample, even though it's 99% consistent all the time, the actual answers there might have a 5% chance of having an error, a 3.5% chance of having an error, 2.5% chance of having an error, or 1% chance of having an error, all because remember that this is from a sample. So we don't have much of a choice rather, but to choose to have errors, and it depends on our study how big rather, or how small our errors would be. So now, taking a look at our table here, as we can see, the smaller sizes are up here, and even if the population size is 10, it's just saying that, take everything. Same with 20, just remove one, but take, everything else. And of course, as our population size increase, our sample size would increase as well. But take a look. As we reach the higher numbers, it all becomes the same. And take a look at this one. Even though our numbers are up to the 50,000, 75,000, if we are 95% confident, that our survey would consistently give the same result, and we allow ourselves 5% error in our survey, then we only need 400 people regardless of how many they are already. Same here, if we will only allow ourselves 1% margin of error for our survey results, but we are 95% sure that our survey results will be consistent, take a look. We would just need more or less 1,000 people, 9,630 to be exact. If we raise our confidence level to 99% and we allow ourselves 5% margin of error, then it would be 663, even though we are already at 300 million people. And here, if we will just allow ourselves 1% margin of error, that's the time we need 16,586. But as you can see, the numbers are almost all the same, even though the numbers are drastically changing. And what is the reason for this? This is all because of the formula. The formula that is being used in our sample size table is actually beyond the scope of our course, but because of the nature of that formula, this is the reason why as we increase our numbers, our sample size remains to be as constant as it can be. So, if you have heard of surveys in media, check their confidence level and their margin of error. That's probably the reason why even though we had a lot of people here in, for example, in the Philippines, if they're using this confidence level and this margin of error, chances are that's one of the reasons why their sample size is more or less 1,500 or 10,000 or with just within these numbers. This time, let's now search for our sample size calculator. We have actually a lot, but let me select not the first one, but the second one. So here we have the second one. And the second one, this is the choice that we made because here, let me just close this one. Here, there is actually an explanation of the things that we would need and even the typical choices that researchers would do. So let's just have an example. Say, for example, you want a 5% margin of error, and let's say you want a 99% confidence. So take a look. If our population is 20,000, this is the sample size that we would have. Now, they say that this is the minimum recommended size of your survey. If you create a sample of this many people and get responses from everyone, you're more likely to get the correct answer than you would get from a large sample where only a small percentage of the sample responds to your survey. So this is only recommended, but it is better if we will get more. Now, take a look at this one. If you don't know, use 20,000 because more or less, the sample size doesn't change much for populations larger rather than 20,000. So that means even though you don't know, or even though our population size rather is bigger, if it's larger than 20,000, more or less we will have the same number. So even though if I put 1 million, it would still be just the same here. And those are some of the tips when using the internet to find our sample size.